He was right behind me as I stepped inside, and I hadn't said a word. The lights were on, music low, a stranger's jacket slung over the armrest, mocking me with its presence. I turned to ask, but Frank just gave me that polite half-smile, the kind that hides a secret you're not sure you want to know. Someone else was in the room. If you've been here before, you know the feeling. Like and subscribe, it makes a difference. If this is your first time, you've stumbled into something raw. Glad you're here. Let's get started. Frank stayed close as we hit the top step, the porch light of our Chicago brownstone casting weak shadows across the edge of his coat, the one I was still wearing. My shoes dangled from 2 fingers, heels clinking softly as I laughed. A laugh that felt too light for the weight in my chest. We'd been lost in dinner plates piled high, too much talk, wine flowing like a river we couldn't stop drinking. Frank's clumsy toast had the whole table frozen before they clapped like it was a show. You talk more than I do, I teased, nudging him with a smile as he fumbled for the keys. He gasped, playing it up, his eyes dancing with that dangerous charm that always pulled me in, while I tried to thank everyone. I tilted my head, still smiling, as he unlocked the door. The lock clicked under his hand, and I stepped forward with him, still close behind, his warmth a tether I couldn't shake. Inside, the air was cooler, sharp. Amber light spilled from the living room, and a slow, soft tune drifted from the speakers, not loud, but enough to make me pause, enough to make my skin prickle with something I couldn't name. My steps slowed. Something was coming, like a storm you feel before it breaks. I glanced back. Frank didn't speak, just stood there, his face unreadable, a mask hiding the truth I was afraid to see. I turned toward the living room and froze. A man was on our couch, leaning back, easy, like he owned the place. His sleeves were rolled up, just enough to show the edge of a watch. One leg crossed neatly. His hand rested lightly on a glass he hadn't touched. His eyes hit mine, instant, unflinching, and I felt it a pull, like a hook in my gut. He didn't speak. Behind me. Frank stepped closer, his breath warm against my neck. He asked about you earlier, he whispered. Thought it'd be better if he met you himself. I didn't answer. I stood there, silent, my heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. Then I looked at Frank, the man who'd walked me home, who hadn't let go of my hand all night, whose touch still burned where it lingered. He met my gaze. No hesitation, his eyes saying things his voice wouldn't. He's not here to push you, he said. I nodded once, a gesture that felt like signing my soul away. I stepped into the room. Frank's hand rested just above my knee, calm, steady, a quiet anchor in a sea of want. I placed my fingers on his for a moment, then pulled back, unsure of what I felt, unsure if I wanted to feel it, not retreating, but leaving something hanging between us, a thread ready to snap. His hand brushed my back, confirming I was still there, still his. But the air said otherwise. I was locked in, focused. The stranger, Nick, leaned closer, shifting slightly toward me. His voice was soft when he spoke, low, like a secret meant only for me. Something shifted in the air, thick, heavy, like the moment before a sin. I didn't answer. I stayed silent, too focused on how his thumb grazed the fabric near my hand, steady, present, a touch that promised more than it said. I took a deep breath and turned toward him. He shifted, like he felt the quiet tension between us, a tension that could break a man. He raised his hand, palm open, brushing hair from my cheek, his fingers lingering like a dare. I didn't flinch. I stood still, and that's when he leaned in. His lips met mine, calm, wordless, a kiss that felt like falling off a cliff. Frank's hand stayed quiet on my back. I could feel him standing close, his presence a weight that held me together and tore me apart. Nick pulled back, just enough to look at me. I met his eyes, unblinking, and saw something dangerous, something I wanted. I placed my hand lightly on his shoulder, steadying myself, or maybe steadying the fire inside me. He shifted as I sat beside him, his hands close but not touching, close enough to make my skin hum. I didn't know whether to speak or stay silent. Frank stood behind me, his hands firm on my back, a reminder of the vows we'd made, now crumbling. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Whatever this was, it was happening. A train wreck I couldn't stop, didn't want to stop. Nick leaned back slightly, his eyes locked on mine, calm, focused, like he saw every crack in my soul. The room grew quieter, filled with a strange peace that swallowed everything. All hesitation melted away, replaced by a hunger I couldn't name. It felt familiar, like something we'd built in secret. I set my glass down hard, the clink loud against the table, a sound that echoed the chaos in my chest. I reached out, tucking a strand of Nick's hair behind his ear. His expression didn't change, but his eyes burned with something that made my pulse race. My heart pounded as I leaned in and kissed him, soft, a kiss that sealed a pact I hadn't meant to make. I turned to Frank, greeting him with a quiet nod, intimate, certain. He exhaled, the silence between us unbroken, but heavy with what we all knew. He stepped forward, his arms sliding gently around my waist, steadying us, pulling me into a moment I couldn't escape. My hand rested near his chest, steady, quiet, feeling his breath rise and fall, each breath a confession of what we were doing. He inhaled, adjusting under my touch. His eyes closed briefly, then opened, moving from me to Nick, his expression clear, fully present, like a man who'd made his choice and wouldn't look back. I took his hand, placing it near Nick's side, calm, deliberate, a gesture that tied us all together. Nick shifted slightly, his face still calm. I placed my hand on Frank's, steady, reassuring, but my heart was racing, betraying the calm I showed. Nick's eyes met mine, raw, understanding, and I felt the air catch in my throat. They sat closer now, sharing the quiet, a quiet that burned with possibility. I stayed near, calm, still, but inside, I was anything but still. The energy between us didn't push it unfolded, soft, inevitable. Nick leaned back, and Frank followed, no hesitation, like they were both caught in the same current. Nick's face stayed calm, eyes clear, but I saw the want there, plain as day. Frank exhaled deeply, his stance steady, mirroring the quiet between them. My heart raced, my breath uneven, the silence wrapping around us, a silence that screamed with what we weren't saying. I leaned back into Frank and whispered, "Let's keep going." His lips met mine before I could exhale, steady, unhurried, a kiss that felt like surrender. One hand stayed on my back, the other tracing my shoulder, guiding me closer until the space between us softened, melted into something dangerous. I felt his breath near my cheek, warm, steady, matching mine, even after we stopped, like we were still one. Frank's palm rested between my shoulder blades, steadying me without a word, his touch a chain I didn't want to break. I hadn't realized how tightly I was holding on. My arm reached behind Nick's shoulder, balancing. I relaxed as he held steady, his strength a quiet promise. Every part of me felt close, connected by the silence between them. He kissed me again, slower, focused. A kiss that didn't demand, just held the moment. My fingers curled behind his shirt, the tension in my chest easing, replaced by a quiet I didn't try to explain, a quiet that felt like sin. Frank's hands held my back and waist, moving lightly, keeping me safe. But safety was the last thing I wanted. His fingertips traced my spine, guiding my awareness, pulling me deeper into the moment. I didn't overthink. I was just here, caught in a web I'd helped weave. Nick leaned back, his eyes lowered, not searching, just thoughtful, like he knew the cost of what we were doing. His hand moved toward my collar, grazing the curve above my shoulder, a touch that sent a shiver through me. The fabric shifted under his fingers, my sleeve slipping slightly, following the pull of his touch. On the other side, Frank adjusted a fold in the fabric, his fingers just as focused, just as dangerous. I shivered, not from cold, but from their presence, from the weight of being seen by both. Nick leaned forward, his head resting lightly on my shoulder, his breath soft against my arm. I leaned into it, drawn without moving much, drawn to the edge of something I couldn't name. Behind me, Frank gathered my hair, brushing it aside, his fingers lingering like a lover's promise. He stood close, silent, steady, his presence near my collar, wordless, but speaking volumes. I felt enveloped, wrapped in a peace that silenced everything else, a peace that felt like betrayal. They guided me to the floor, one supporting my back, the other steadying me until the soft rug rose beneath me. The movement was gentle, deliberate, like they'd planned every second of this fall. My dress shifted naturally, gathering loosely at my waist, following the rhythm of our descent. I barely noticed the surface beneath me, too focused on how they stayed with me, how they held me in their orbit. One hand rested under my arm, the other gently behind my head as I leaned back. I didn't close my eyes. I watched, wanting to burn every second into my memory. Nick's hand moved along my waist, pausing near my side, his intent silent but clear. He stopped sometimes, focused, patient, careful, each move leaving a mark. Not on my skin, but on my soul. I breathed evenly, grounding myself in the moment, refusing to let it pull me forward too fast. Frank knelt beside me, his fingers brushing my side, each touch a reminder of what we were risking. I turned toward his touch, open, steady. He leaned down, his forehead touching mine, a moment so raw it hurt. Our breaths were uneven at first, then synced. I watched his eyes close, then mine followed, not from effort, but from the quiet we shared. His hand moved to my face, fingers grazing behind my ear, a reminder he was there, always there. I reached up, taking his hand, pulling it to my chest, wanting him to feel my calm, my need. Nick moved closer, his body near mine, his face hovering near my shoulder. Still, silent, but burning with something unspoken. I turned slightly toward him, one hand still holding him, the other gripping Frank, torn between two fires. They stayed close, One behind, one beside, adjusting with me, their presence a cage I didn't want to escape. No rush, no noise, just quiet, just closeness. A closeness that felt like sin made flesh. For a moment, I lifted myself without realizing, stirred by something I didn't try to define. I held them both, anchoring myself in their presence, in the heat of their nearness. My hands gripped theirs, not to hold tight, but to feel the quiet of this place, to feel the weight of what we were doing. Frank's voice came low in my ear. Calm. This moment is yours. And in the silence that followed, I felt everything: the quiet, the warmth, the weight of being known, the weight of being wanted. My breath steadied before I could speak again. But I knew they understood, knew they felt the same pull, the same sin. Be honest. Would you stay in that moment or walk away? What choice would you make? Tell me in the comments. I always read them. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, and hit the bell to catch what's next. Thanks for watching.